the country right after Mexico, so it's two countries away. It's like basically the next door neighbor. And just I was lucky enough that I was born into a well enough family over there that I was able to go to school here in the U.S. I was able to get a master's. I was able to do a lot of things that most people can't do over there. And now I'm trying to give back. And talking with Jerry when I met him, it's something as simple as water, you know, and you think like, how can it really change? How can water change somebody's life so drastically? And it's down to the point where people who suffer from malnutrition and they don't have access to clean water, they're going to get chronic diarrhea. And if you already have malnutrition and you get chronic diarrhea, you're probably going to get stunted growth, you're going to get developmental problems that usually people don't have. Even access to school is limited because kids, as young as 5, they have to carry containers with water and sometimes carry them for a mile to the well where they get the water, then carry it back and do it all over again a couple times a day. So they don't even have a chance to go to school, you know. So giving them access to clean water enables them to get an education, to do a lot of things that basically gives them a chance. Right now they don't even have a chance. If you grow up carrying water all your life, by the time you're 10 years old, you don't know how to write, you don't know how to read, you're pretty much done, you know. You're not going to get a job doing anything else than manual labor, like back-breaking manual labor.
So how do you think you're going to bring in water to Guatemala?
Well, I have a couple of friends that are doing a project already over there, something not at a grand scale. I think they've done something like 4 or 5 wells. But basically it's a small well in a remote community where the community has no access to electricity or water. So we set up a well about 400 feet deep to be able to get clean water. They sleeve the well, they put the pumps, we get a solar equipment so they can actually run the well because otherwise they have no electricity. And we're looking to set up a water container so that they can add a little bit of chlorine to it and have a clean source of water that will really change their life. You see the little kids carrying the containers. I don't know if you had the picture there, but it's heartbreaking, you know. And they get to 15 years of age and they don't know how to write, they don't know how to read. They have no chance at life.
What are the facilities that you use to create the water?
What are the facilities that we use to create the water?
Let's say I'm interviewing you and I want to help Guatemala, and we really do. And what facilities would you use to create the water? I'm totally ignorant.
Well, we would get a company that drills the well. You know, they take the drill willing equipment down to the community. Guatemala is a small country, really small, but the problem is that the access to streets, it's not like sending the well drilling equipment down 95 and that's it. It might be 150 miles, but those 150 miles might take 3 to 4 days to get to the place, you know. There's no roads.
I see.
It's in a remote place, so not only did it have no water, they got no electricity, they got no schools, they got no clinics, they got nothing. So what we were trying to do is set up a well that's self-contained, that they can run without electricity, that can supply them enough water to drink and maybe for their for whatever they're doing for farming. You know,
And
because
the Guatemalans in the area that you're talking about basically have to spend most of their life trying to get water from somewhere else. Carrying water, that's the impression that I got.
over 50, Guatemala is a small country, about 15 million people, but about over 50% of the population lives in rural areas without access to running water.
I got a question to ask. For this the water, I understand that water is very precious and you're trying to figure out ways to transport it. What is the best way to purify the water, since Guatemala is not exactly best known for, actually all of Central America is not best known or his water quality?
Well, that's why we're suggesting wells that are about 400 feet deep, so that you get to water that's not contaminated. And then the water's gonna get pumped out to a container where they can add a little bit of chlorine and kill any
Bacteria.
yeah, any bacteria in the water.
In tandem with your well project, could the establishment of like maybe an organic garden or a garden with the well program, is that actually feasible? Like, would we
Yeah.
be able to take students and, our team members
Totally.
down there to teach them to
I
educate
actually
them
have a
to-
friend that we started talking. He has a coffee farm, and he had the problem where the people around his farm were breaking his water line to steal the water because they needed to water their farming. So he had to come into an agreement with them that he was going to let them use the water on certain days, but please stop cutting the line, So he gives them water, I think, like twice a week, something like that, so that all their crops can survive and make it. But at least now they're not cutting his water supply. So it's a pretty big problem. I mean,
It's like a water war,
yeah.
right?
How often do you go down to Guatemala?
I go once a month right now, and it's a completely different place. I mean, it's really hard to see. Well, my kids growing up here and being used to so many things and taking so many things for granted, I've taken them back, and it almost gets them to the point where they're like, they don't understand why these kids are living in the conditions that they're living, I mean, there might be 12 people, 15 people in a room half the size of this,
Let me ask you this. People are selfish. Not everybody is selfish. People are very selfish. And what incentive do you have for selfish people to contribute to this project so they say, what's in it for me and what are we going to give them? You must have something in your head about this. What are we going to give the people?
In
for this
exchange
job?
for donating resources, you mean?
Yes, yes. That they can see something tangible coming out of it, like Jerry said, organic gardens or whatever.
Yeah, we could do something like that,
Export
like
supply to the
like organic gardens, where students could go and teach the people down there how to garden better, how to use the water handling methods, so that they know that certain food lasts a certain amount of time without it getting them sick. There's just so much thing that people down there have no education on, Everything that you take for granted here, like lights and electricity and water, and they don't have it down there.
I might have an example.
A lot of people are still living with candles.
One of my sons was married to a girl who came from the Philippines. And she came over here, she did quite well in the medical field, and he's doing quite well in the communications. And they were sending money to the Philippines, constantly. So my son and family goes over there, and he sees an opportunity to purchase a old military barracks. And made a little investment, turned it into a dormitory for the local university that was there, and then had his wife's family manage that, and then they would have their own income, so he wouldn't have to send the money. Because directly or indirectly, in this country, we're somewhat paying for the situation in Guatemala and Honduras and in Nicaragua.
Exactly,
In one way, we're paying for it. We may not realize it, but we're paying for it because our tax dollars, et cetera, some part of that is being diverted to a way. So we're having to increase taxes so many times to pay for so many other programs that we have here. Once you actually go on a program of an implementation where those people there are in charge of their own destiny, you've accomplished many things. Number one, their own self-esteem, which is something that really if you haven't been there, you cannot imagine that their entire existence is about sustaining themselves. Survival. It is not about going to the mall, it's not about going to the movies, it's not about watching television, it's not about it's just survival. From the day they're born to the day they die is all about survival. That's it. That's their world. That's their entire reality. And if we have a way of being able to broaden their own horizons, at the same time, you have to realize you can't. Even when people are poor, they have dignity, and I think we have a tendency so many times to say, well, here, take this and shut up. But no, they're proud people, and when you can show them a way that they can actually contribute themselves and do it, you will find the production level will start to increase. And you will always have the government to deal with over there, but that's another.
I think also the best way to help them is helping them over there, because a lot of people
Yeah.
are like, oh, let's bring them over.
No.
You can't bring everybody over,
No.
it's impossible. But if you can help them over there, teach them the things to help themselves, I think that's where you can create the biggest.
By helping people to stay over there, and
Yeah,
because they love
creating
their
opportunity
country.
for them to have a dignified life, that they don't need to go up
Yeah.
chasing the American dream up north,
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know if Jerry had a chance to show you these pictures, but I mean, you see these pictures of little kids, walking miles with a water container, and it's just, it's heartbreaking, and it's what you said, it's just surviving every day. There's no planning for tomorrow, it's just getting through the day.